We are back because the month is new and we've got cybersecurity training for you. And Steven's
I like it.
here and he's got stuff to talk about. And I do too.
I like it.
All right. Welcome,
that's good.
everybody. Hope you like the song. Welcome. If you're here for end user cybersecurity training, you are in the right place. My name's Jason Clause. I'm the director of marketing here at Endsight. I'm joined, as always, by our security wizard and all-around good guy, Mr. Stephen Hicks.
I need a staff and a hat. Thank you, sir. Appreciate that.
Welcome. I'm glad you're here, buddy, and I'm happy to see you.
Good to be here. I like doing this. This is a lot of fun.
Before we continue on, folks, if you could just drop really quickly in the chat a quick hello, or I can hear you. Jason's tone deaf. That would be fine.
It's good. It's good. I like it.
We're just going to wait and make sure people can hear us here. Not seeing anything. Starting to worry, maybe.
Slightly. There we go.
There
hey guys, thank you.
Go.
Appreciate you all very much.
Perfect. Okay. Well, we're going to keep going then because we want to make sure that we get you in and out of here within the hour. We always deliver on that.
Always.
Every time. Every single time.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So here's our agenda for today to get through training. We're gonna here's not our agenda. I'm so sorry. I'm getting ahead of myself. First and foremost, we want to thank everybody for coming. And some of you may or may not be Endsight clients. So we want to just tell you a little bit about ourselves just really quickly. Endsight does computer system support for organizations in California, Northern California, Southern California, and we work with an awful lot of law firms in Hawaii, and we're glad you're all here. Our core values kind of roll up to our reason for being, which is to help others thrive. And we think that one of the ways to do that is to offer open source educational content like end user cybersecurity training, which we do the second Tuesday of every month. There's a couple of things we're a little bit proud of that we want to share with you here, some of our accolades for the last year or so. One of them, though, is a second place rating at the Right of Boom Capture the Flag contest. And you might be thinking to yourself, Stephen, why would we possibly say we're proud of second place? But you've got some really good reasons why, don't you, my friend?
Yeah. So everybody, we took second place in a very intense cybersecurity capture the flag competition in February. Premier cybersecurity conference in the world with only the best MSPs that show up and only the best actually take part in the competition. So of the 1,000 MSPs that were there, 150 did it, and we're second. We're actually really proud of that, everybody. There is an IT firm that took first place. They're up in Canada. And listen, if you're there, you might as well say hi to them. They seem pretty awesome. But honestly, we are among the very best of the best when it comes to cybersecurity. We have some third-party validation on that. We're pretty happy about it. So we'll take the second. That's not bad.
Right.
So there you go.
So basically, everybody, Stephen knows what he's talking about.
Well,
all right.
My team does.
All right, here's our agenda for today. We're going to go through a fundamentals overview. We'll talk about cybersecurity hygiene, the basic blocking and tackling. We'll stop about midway to do some question and answer. We've got some specific phishing examples for you that we'll go through, and then we'll let you go at the top of the hour with some recaps and some resources for you, some free stuff for you to take along if you want. Before we get started, though, let's let everybody that wants to air their grievances. This slide is why
Jason makes me go. I have to.
Yes.
It's not. I don't get a choice. Like that's my.
So if you want to drop in, if you somebody tends to always drop in the obligatory. Well, I'm here to learn good cybersecurity best practices, and we love that too. We're glad you're here for that too. But if you're here because you've been voluntold, that's okay.
Yeah. So that's why I'm here, everybody.
Yep. No, nobody wants to participate. Oh,
that's fine. I mean, you can't blame them. It's gonna be
one of those days. Okay.
Yeah, right. It is.
All right. Well, the fact of the matter is, everybody, it doesn't matter who you are. Anybody can be a victim of cybercrime, and you can see to the left there, represented by that parabolic growth in that slide. It is happening all over the place. We're right now, I think we're saying the industry is a $9 trillion industry, Stephen. What I can't remember
Nine
what
and
it
a
is.
half, we
Nine and a half
think.
trillion, almost 10 trillion, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, there's a lot of incentive to try to take advantage of us on our business's behalf. It's typified in examples like this. So this is the life cycle of an attack. This was a slide that was delivered to us by one of our security partners called Sophos, and it's how a phishing attack or a successful phishing incursion led to a $2.5 million ransomware attack. And it started out the way you might expect it. Somebody got coerced or clicked or tricked or fear of missing out into clicking on something that we shouldn't. But unlike what happens in the movies where the skull and crossbones pops up and goes, ha, 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 you've been hacked. Nothing happened right then, right? For 8 weeks, though, a human being had access to the environment and began to reconnoiter this environment to find out what its value was. At the 9 and 10 week mark, the logs go cold. And the reason that happened, the suspicion is that the initial attacker was suspected to be what's called an initial access broker. Stephen, you want to expand on what that role is and how it fits into the attack ecosystem?
Sure. So everybody, the attackers are so large and well-resourced now that they're starting to specialize like totally normal businesses, right? So very commonly you get someone who's either a really good hacker or they're really charismatic and they're great at tricking people, or they happen to be a good writer or something to that effect. And they're real good at getting in. They're real good at breaching and establishing some level of consistent, persistent access. But they don't necessarily want to be involved in like negotiations with the FBI and your insurance company and stuff like that. So
Right.
what they'll do is they'll sell access. They'll get in and say, I've reached a winery of 50 people in California. I have access to their admin accounts. That's $600. And they sell it on the dark web. And then you find someone else who comes and buys it. And that's Jason's next little progression of the slide here. Someone else comes and buys it and they say, hey, I want to do the damage. I want to launch the attack. I want to be the one that negotiates with the attackers. And so the truth is that although they're definitely bad guys, a lot of these attackers have tried to form real businesses. And I'm not going to say
Yeah.
they're legitimate businesses. I'm going to say they're business modeled.
Right. And they're not going to, you're going to talk about it in a minute, Stephen. But
Hmm.
a lot of times when I'm talking to folks, one of the questions that comes up is, well, why are they doing this? And do they, do they really think they're bad guys? And the answer is no. Like a lot of them don't. Like
Right.
there's cultural implications, but that's one of the things that I don't want to steal your thunder, but that's one of the things that's been jumping out at me is it's that it's almost like they think they're Robin Hood.
Right.
So there's it's just strange. Anyway, so at the 11-week mark here, the new owner of this access took control, continued to try to understand what the value of this environment was that he or she had access to, and it wasn't until 3 months later that the attack got launched, and it got launched at 4 o'clock in the morning. It was an encryption attack, and and there was a ransom for $2.5 million. Now, whether that got paid or not, that's not clear. But this is the anatomy, and this happens over and over and over again. And we've been involved in these things. We have seen these things, and they continue to happen. And so it's really important for everybody that's on this call to recognize that while end user cybersecurity training is very, very important, it's not like if you were guarding your house, you would just put up a fence around the perimeter and say, okay, we're good. And then you wouldn't do anything else. In the same sense, just doing end user cybersecurity training, while a very good first step, is not necessarily where you should stop. There's actually an entire set of levels that you should understand and make sure that you've evaluated as potential countermeasures for your business. And if you haven't done that, and you're one of the people that would be responsible for the outcome if you were attacked, that's something you should be talking to Stephen about and his team. We'll give you an opportunity to do that maybe a little bit later if you want to. In the meantime, Stephen, why don't you go ahead and take your thunder and tell people a little bit about Dragon Force?
All right, everybody. So typically, this is the part of the fundamentals training where I tell you about the silly, crazy, insane, horrible, terrible thing that happened in the last month and what we're going to do about it. And I make you say, hey, be really scared. There's bad guys. Well, there's bad guys. Are you scared now? I helped. In this particular case, I have more of an interesting factoid for you. It's not something that I think anybody's gonna be able to do anything about on this call. It's not something I think you're gonna be able to change, but it is interesting. There is a ransomware cartel. They call themselves Dragon Force, just like the symphonic metal band. And they believe themselves to be a little Robin Hoodie as well. They do not attack healthcare organizations, but they are attempting to gather other ransomware operator groups in a ransomware as a service model, meaning this particular firm, or I guess cartel, has all the infrastructure, all the resources, all the development. They've built everything you need to attack people and ransom their stuff and extort them. And they're literally selling it as a monthly subscription as a service, right? So people with very little infrastructure or very little expertise can subscribe to this particular group's services and launch attacks with almost nothing to start. There's no capital requirements. You don't need a bunch of servers. You don't need a hacker kit or anything like that. You just need to know how to get a hold of these guys and subscribe to their service, which I think is horrifying, but very interesting, right? So the barrier to entry for attacking with things like ransomware is so very, very low nowadays. It's literally a subscription-based service. You need like whatever their monthly fee is. I don't honestly know, and I don't want to. So there's that. But the point of this is to say ransomware is still really big. And in fact, in 2024, it was ransomware's biggest year ever. At Endsight, we had 0 ransomware attacks across our client base. And I'm honestly really proud of that. That's pretty cool. But that does not mean the world in general is being is free of ransomware. And it certainly doesn't mean that we won't have any this year or that we couldn't have had any. Just interesting to know that these are very, very well developed attackers and very, very well developed industries. And they're just trying to get anywhere. So everything we tell you on this training, super, super valid as of May 13th, 2025, when we are recording this training. But we do this every month, and always I have something new, always. So this is a very, very changing industry resourced by very, very wealthy bad guys.
Unfortunately. And we need to be suspicious. We'll more on that in a minute, right? Which kind of brings us to our fundamentals overview, right? So the very first, there's 2 things in our fundamentals overview. I mean, there's more here, but there's 2 things that if you remember nothing else from our time together today, we hope you remember these things. The first one is that anytime your fingers are touching a keyboard or a keypad on the mobile devices, it is really, really important to be cultivating a habit of suspicion, a cautious distrust, because it will serve you well. The other thing is, if you haven't already set up multi-factor authentication or 2-factor authentication on everything that you have, you should really go and do that. In fact, it might be, Stephen, I'm going to steal your thunder here. It might be a good idea to go and do that right now. And I usually will allow Stephen to share a little bit about what exactly multi-factor authentication is, and it will really disappoint him if I didn't do that. So I'm going to do that and let you talk about it.
Thanks, buddy. Appreciate that. So listen, everyone, it's 2025, right? If I'm the first one telling you about multi-factor authentication, someone somewhere in my industry has failed horribly, right? I'm certain you all know if you log into your bank online, you're going to get a text message or an authenticator. And I'm certain for our Endsight clients, if you're logging into several parts of your IT, you should get multi-factor. But multi-factor, in case you want the actual definition, it's a combination of 2 different kinds of ways to prove who you are. So the ways we accept are something you know, like your PIN or your password, something you have, like your phone or your ATM card, and something you are, biometrics, like your fingerprint or your retinal. Multi-factor is 2 categories, not 2 things. So a PIN and a password would not count. A phone and a credit card would not count. But a phone and a PIN, something you know and something you have, are very common. And I'm saying this, everybody, I don't mean just at work. Jason's right. Go to your Amazon, LinkedIn, Gmail, Yahoo, bunch of other stuff. Right now, while we're flapping our mouth holes over here talking about security, we know you're all super awake and paying tons of attention. Go secure your personal accounts, everybody. If I could just get that across, I'd be super, super happy. It should be everywhere. In 2025, you put your password and you do not intrinsically reach for your phone for some reason to help do multi-factor, you're missing something. You should have that muscle memory by now.
And we keep bringing it up, and I know it sounds really tired for anybody who's been to this training before, but the reason we keep bringing it up is the same reason we keep bringing up the Mike Chapek gift cards. It's because people keep getting tripped up with this.
Happens.
And so if you haven't done it, please, 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 this is Microsoft, this article that we've got here, it says that this more than anything else can really prevent an attack. 99.9% of the attacks can be thwarted just by doing this. Now that might be changing slightly, but it is a highly effective form of coverage for yourself, and it's crazy easy to do. So if you're in the Microsoft 365 environment like we are over here at Endsight, you can head on over to office.com, or this is how I log in. I either go there or I log in by putting in Google. And then I get into our tenant where it asks for my email address. I put my email address in, it asks for my password. I drop my password in. It gives me this code. There's a bung on my phone. I go to my phone. I drop the number right in there after checking to make sure it's roughly where it looks like I'm logging in from. And then I do my biometrics, and boom, it drops me right into my 365 tenant. It's not completely frictionless, but it is fairly simple to do. And on top of that, our environment's configured so it's not happening every single time. It remembers a little bit, but as a matter of policy, right, Stephen, it does reset with some level of frequency, because
Absolutely.
that's smart.
Yeah.
Because there's a whole nother thing doing all of that. There's still a thing called an MFA bypass attack, which you know pretty well because you've tangled with them before, right, Stephen?
Yeah, everybody. So MFA is great, and you should have it, and you should definitely have it, and you should have it. Have I mentioned you should have MFA? It's 99% effective. It's not 100% effective, though. It is bypassable. Without getting too technical, I can, just like you can forward a phone invisibly, you can like think you're going to one number, but you actually go to another number. You can do that to a website too. Unfortunately, what you can't spoof is the address bar, but you can make the whole page look absolutely exactly like Microsoft's, because it's literally just copying Microsoft's page. The way to check is to look at the address bar when you're putting your credentials in. And if you don't know what it is, get out and Google Microsoft, Microsoft.com, Office.com, things you know are there. I'm saying this not because I think you're going to be super technical and be available to avoid MFA bypass attacks or anything like that. I just want you to know. I want you to know that it exists. I want you to know that nothing's perfect. And there's nothing we can do or say in this call or any call in the future to say, you're going to be safe forever because we did this one thing. It's not a thing. It doesn't work like that.
Right? There's just too much to gain from the threat world to make it so that we're ever going to be able to keep you completely safe, because there's always going to be a new thing, right?
Yep.
All right, let's talk a little bit about multi-channel verification, which is different from multi-factor authentication, and it's confusing. But Stephen, you want to briefly elucidate us?
Sure. We use very similar terminology for this, but it's a completely different thing. So multi-channel verification is using a different type of communication to verify the first type. So if somebody sends you an email saying, hey, please change my bank account, I want my paycheck going somewhere different, maybe you got to call them, right? Or if you get a call from your credit card company, maybe you ought to send them an email, make sure it was them. Or maybe you ought to hang up and use a different number to call them. Like the whole point is, don't just trust that because someone has your email address or your phone number, both of which are very much available on the dark web. I guarantee it for everyone on this call, your information's out there on the dark web. Just because they have that information does not mean you should trust them. You should always check. Trust but verify 1,000%, and use a different medium. Like, for example, if someone sends me an email, I do not then email them back and ask if it was them. That's not effective. I would pick up the phone and call them. And so just remember this. This is a very important tip.
Yeah, it's a really good one. We'll talk about it a little bit more when we talk about attachments. Okay, so kind of two things around, multi-factor authentication, and then
multi-channel verification.
Yes, thank you.
Got you, buddy.
Thank you. Now we got two easier ones for you. One, identity management. You've probably seen these things like the example here when you've tried to log into a website. Stephen, what is this, and is it really safer?
Yep. So everybody, this is effectively, instead of you giving that website your name, address, username, password, all that stuff that they store and keep forever, you're making a connection. In this case, it could be to LinkedIn, Microsoft, GitHub, or Google, but there are others. I'm sure you've seen boxes like this on the internet. I love these because what it does is it makes a connection to, I'll use Google as an example, and it says, hey, Google, please, when this website needs to know where to ship me stuff, please tell them where to ship me things. And please agree to prove that I am who I say I am. And then later on, when you're done buying eggsbymail.com or whatever, you can go into your Google account and you can delete the connection. And then that website just no longer knows about you and you're just gone for them. It's amazing. It's a right to be forgotten.
I don't know if I'm ever going to be done with eggs.com, Stephen, especially if the eggs are cheaper. Are they cheaper?
I don't know, but I would, they may be cheaper now, but maybe you want to have them forget about you when the prices change later.
Maybe this would be a way to do it. All
Yeah.
right. Okay. The other easier one, folks, the fundamentals trick is the tapping isn't just easier. It's also a lot safer. Stephen, you want to expand on it just briefly?
Sure. So everybody, the magnetic strip on your credit card and your ATM card contains your actual account number, your actual expiration date, your actual CVV number, your actual name. So when you swipe that, you're giving the merchant that. And next time Target gets freaking breached and makes me replace my credit card, they're gonna have that information. The gold chip on your cards is actually a computer. When you insert it into a machine, it powers on that computer and exchanges a one-time temporary code just for that transaction that can never be used again. So even if a bad guy was to get it, they wouldn't have your credit card information or your address or email or any of those things. Even better is just tapping with Apple Pay or Google Pay or the cards that can do it, because you never have to put your device in any you don't have to insert it anywhere, so nothing can be like skimmed by a device that sits on top of it or something cleverly fit. So listen, if you can swipe, if you have to swipe, swipe. If you can insert, insert. But if you can tap, clearly the best. And gosh, it's so much easier, right? Oh my goodness, the Europeans figured this out 10 years ago. We're a little far behind.
Yeah, I love this one and the previous one because it makes life a little bit easier. I just realized, folks, I dropped a link in the into the chat without any context. This is the when Stephen was talking about the Dragon Force cartel. There was an article that I dropped in there for reference if you want to read that. That's what that is. All right, getting into our cybersecurity hygiene, right? So hopefully this is going to feel very much like Kellogg's cornflakes tasted again for the very first time. It should be review, but if it's not, that's okay. When we're on networks, a lot of us are working from home, so we need to make sure we've got a good password on the home network. We'll talk about more of that in a moment. We should make sure we change that password once a year for the home network. If you don't live there, you shouldn't be giving away the primary Wi-Fi password. Most of the manufacturers these days, we have an Eero at home here, but there's lots of different manufacturers out there. They give the ability to deliver a guest network where you can continually change that password. That's the best practice there. And you shouldn't forget about your smart devices. Just because it needs to be connected to the internet does not mean that you should connect it to the internet, unless you want smart ice, right? Smart guy, you wanted smart ice.
Yeah. Why does your washing machine need Wi-Fi? What the heck? Why would you even, or your stove? Like, don't give those things to the manufacturer. You'll be all right.
Right. The only possible reason is so that they can spy on you.
Right.
Or or ethically spy on you, or whatever it is that they're trying to do.
Is that a thing?
I don't know if it's a thing.
Ethical spying. I don't even want to know.
Snooping. It's snooping is what it is. It's cheeky. It's cheeky snooping. That's what it is.
Yep.
All right. When it comes to creating passwords, the guidance used to be to create these really difficult to remember passwords, but that's actually not the best way to do it anymore. It never was, right? So, Stephen, you want to expand on points 1 through 4 here in your beautiful comic strip.
I wish I could take credit for it, but
strip
credit
of
to Randall Monroe. So everybody used to think passwords had to be all these complex, weird characters with numbers and exclamations and all that stuff. They just need to be long. Everybody, just long. Just take a bunch of words that mean something to you and cram them together. That really, it's an amazingly better password. It's way easier to remember, and it's much harder to breach. Better of course for random words. Please don't use like your address, anniversary, kid's name, dog's name. Like that's not a great plan. Favorite sports team. Don't do that. And because humans do this, right? That's why I mentioned this. We're pretty bad
Hmm.
at being random. Humans are great at finding patterns. We're also great at finding patterns where none actually exist. Um, this is why we use password generators, right? I happen to like Bitwarden and 1Password. I'm going to throw them in the chat here in a second and let you know what I like. But there are really great password storage and generation solutions that will allow you to generate these really awesome passwords, really long, and then remember them for you, so you don't have to write them down in that little black book on the top drawer of your desk that we definitely do know about, or stick them on a sticky note under your keyboard.
I think the only other thing I'll add about password generators and password software, like one, the other nice thing is that you know exactly where they are.
Yeah.
Prior to that, I had them everywhere. Like they were written down, they were in a spreadsheet or they were over here, and just having them all in
Jason,
one
what are you doing?
place
You're going to give me a coronary, man.
that's safe. Well, I haven't, I've had 1Password for 10 years.
Yeah,
I'm safe, Steven. Well, I'm as safe as I can. I'm safe. I'm always emailing you like, hey, is this safe?
that's fair. You are. You're doing good.
All right. Okay. So that's passwords on the workstations. If you get up from your machine, you should lock it on the Windows machine. It's Control Alt Delete. Never share your passwords with anyone. That's just a good best practice all the time, everywhere. Um, a lot of us are. Like I mentioned before, we're working from home. I've got a laptop that's issued by Endsight. That's where I do my business work. And then when I have personal work, there's another machine that's in the kitchen, and that's the machine that I use. The kids aren't on this one. No one else has access to it. And having that demarcation, that's a really good best practice to have in place, even if it is cumbersome. And then for Insight clients, make sure to leave those machines on at night because that's when we run maintenance and make sure that the systems are as well tuned as we can keep them. It's kind of speaking of machines and what you use for what. Every company most do, but every company should have an acceptable use policy. It's one of several core policies that every organization should have. And you should know yours and understand it. And if you're one of the folks responsible for security in the organization and you don't have one of these, you should reach out to your technical account manager, reach out to us. We'll be happy to work with you to help create these as well as the other policies that you need. And Stephen, can you refresh our memory on what the other core policies are that everyone should have?
Acceptable use is the first one, then incident response if you get hacked, and disaster recovery, something like if your office burns down. Those are the
Yeah.
big ones the insurance companies
Those are
ask for.
those are the big. And there's more and there's other layers that you can put in place, but those are the big ones. All right. When you're out on the internet webs, right, only install software from safe sources. Typically, what we're suggesting here is that you should be looking in the stores to download software. Again, nothing that we're saying is foolproof, but there's a measure of scrutiny there that helps. The Apple Store, the Google Store, the Windows Store. Although there was something recently, actually, an update from last month, Stephen, was that there was Google software Android software that was compromised. So do be careful there. But that's the best we've got. Certainly, don't be going to random sites to download things. And if you're an Endsight client, you should be prohibited from doing that. Typically, right, Stephen? Isn't that a policy
Yes,
we put in place for most clients? Okay.
typically yes.
If you log into a website, you should also log out of it. I'll talk about it in just a second. You should trust only the trustworthy with your passwords. And by that, what I mean is you should look for the lock before entering any personal information into a website that you're going to enter credentials into. And this is the best guidance that we can give right now. So, Stephen, can you help folks understand what secure socket layer is and how that technology works and what the green and red means and what it
Sure.
doesn't mean?
Yeah, everybody. Um, this is a website that has done the very basic minimum of proving they are who they say they are. And you can literally do this for free. And I use proving very lightly. This is effectively step one of making a website after buy the domain is to get a certificate going. What this does is it makes sure the traffic between your computer and the website is encrypted in transit so nobody can snoop on it. I'm not going to tell you that having a certificate makes you certain you're on a good website and that everything's totally fine and that you should trust this website with all your information. But I will tell you that if it's missing, you should be worried. This is basic blocking and tackling making a website. If you ever see not secure in the address bar, you're probably in the wrong place unless you are in a website you are personally operating or it's like your home firewall. Um, just know this is check one. This should always be here. If you don't see if you see not secure or a broken lock or something, you should always be worried about it 100% of the time.
Yeah. We talked a little bit earlier when we were talking about multi-factor authentication about making sure to check those links. And this is as good a place as any to talk about it a little bit more. If you find yourself on a web page and maybe it's showing green, but you just feel like you're in the wrong place, because again, an attacker can just as easily put secure socket layer on their spoofing page
100%.
as anybody else can. So that's not foolproof, but maybe your spidey sense got triggered, right? Maybe that suspicion that we talked about earlier, every time your fingers touch a keyboard, you're like, I don't know if I should be on this page. This page looks an awful lot like something that that a lot of us go to all the time. I was logging into Amazon this morning, but this is clearly a fake page. And here's how you know. When you look at a domain name, what you want to do is look for the com, right? The com or the net or the US or whatever the top domain level is. And then you want to look for the dot that's directly to the left of that. As I mentioned, that's the top level domain. You want to work your way left to the next dot. And whatever is in between that first dot and the second dot, as you work your way left, that is the actual domain of where you are. And then after that would be what's called the subdomain. So when we take that and then we push it up to our example here, our fake page example, you can see we find the .com and then we work our way left. And what's in between the two dots is tube-gif-converter, right? It's not Amazon. You don't see the word Amazon until you get into the subdomain. But this gives you some sense of how you diagnose whether you might be in a bad spot or not. And if you are, then you close out of it. And if you're an Endsight client, might make sense to call into the response center and just have us check around for you, right? There's no harm in that, right, Stephen?
Yep, totally fine.
All righty. Okay. When it comes to email, like we call it the evil email, don't open attachments unless you're certain they're safe. I don't know. Go ahead and throw a 1 in the chat if you process a lot of contracts for folks. Maybe there's some folks here that sign contracts. I sign a lot of them. And so I get a lot of DocuSigns and things like that. Those are links. I also get contract drafts to review terms and conditions. So one of the things that I think is really important is that when I get those things, part of my sniff test is I'm expecting them. And if I'm not expecting an attachment from somebody, the suspicion flag goes. Now, it doesn't mean that necessarily means that the attachment's bad, but I am not clicking on that until I've done until I've verified it with a second factor. I've done it to Stephen before, actually.
Oh, yeah.
But so I think that's the first thing. Just don't assume any attachments that you get are safe. Be suspicious of them. If you suspect an email's malicious, it's ill-advised to try to open it. You should check the sender's email very closely. You can see that in our example here, this is kind of a rudimentary example, but there's a difference between Gmail and Gmail. But a busy person, like I want to refer all the way back to that third or fourth slide where we said that anyone can be a victim of cybercrime. This example actually dates back a few years, but somebody that was very, very smart got tripped up by this exact combination. But it's the other thing to do is when you're looking at your email, make sure to scrutinize those links. We say think before you link. You can do that in our example here. The user is hovering over the URL, and you can see it shows that it's going someplace that doesn't mate up with where the URL says it's going. In most modern browsers, that will show up in the bottom left-hand corner of the web browser or of the email system. Okay. I want to stop here, Stephen, and give another shout out to Joseph Rogers. That guy is always giving great feedback on this training and asking for new enhancements. So Joseph, I don't think you're on today, but you might be watching the recording. I just want to say thanks for the enhancement. But Stephen, he said, listen, you got to make sure people understand how to use email encryption. So why don't you go ahead and do it? I'll build the slide for you, but why don't you go ahead and share that with folks?
All right, everybody give me a 2 in chat.
To begin with? Yeah.
Yeah. Everybody give me a 2 in chat if you knew that email was not encrypted and cannot contain sensitive information and just be sent. It's an interesting point. Email goes over the public internet. And if you send things like social security numbers or tax returns or whatever over the internet, somebody watching the internet, and believe me, there are very well-resourced individuals just watching all the traffic on the internet to see if they can find anything, can see that information. So there's a solution for this, and it is encryption of your email, right? So email isn't secure. Don't send it. So when I encrypt an email, there's kind of a couple ways it can show up. This is how I do it in Outlook, right? You open up Outlook, you go to Options, you hit the encryption button, and you hit Encrypt. If you are sending email from a Microsoft 365 account, as I would assume many of us here are, to another Microsoft 365 account, this whole process is seamless. They open it up in their Outlook. They don't even know it exists. It's totally fine. If you send it from a Microsoft account to like a Gmail account or something, the recipient goes through one extra step of proving who they are and opening it in a web page. But the upside is then you can send email that has very sensitive information in it, and the attackers can't see it. People who are watching and sniffing can't see it. But more than anything, you should know email encryption exists and it should be used. And two, without it, email isn't safe. Don't email your tax returns in, please. If you're applying for a loan from a bank, don't send them all your important financial information over an unencrypted email. That's a real good way to get yourself hacked. I wouldn't recommend it, but I do recommend email encryption.
Yep. How often do you use it, Stephen? Do you use it frequently?
Probably twice a week.
Yeah.
No.
Okay. All right. So that's email, folks. But remember what we said earlier. If you remember nothing, remember two things. One of those things is cultivate a habit of suspicion every time your fingers touch a keyboard or the keypad, right? And we haven't spent a lot of time on the keypad. So let's go there. Take a close look at this, because not all phishing or not all suspicious or malicious attacks come through the email system. A lot of times they come through your phone. So Stephen, why don't you walk folks through this?
All right, everybody. So this is actually from my personal cell phone, right? So there's a couple things I want you to take a look here. First of all, it's a +44 number. I don't get a lot of text messages internationally. That'd be odd. It should be first of all. Second of all, my toll fee payment is overdue. I'd be real surprised if somebody was sending me a link to pay a toll. That'd be weird over SMS. I don't know how they would have gotten my phone number. Third of all, if you look, the URL rb.gy, come on, what the heck? What the heck's going on? And the last thing you should notice is the link. First of all, it says toll. Then it says rb.gy, which has nothing to do with the toll. Then the preview of the link is quality women's leather shoes, which has nothing to do with the toll, and that's weird. And then it says Bay Area Fast Track SZ.org, which is 100% not the Bay Area Fast Track site. So there's a whole bunch of things that here that I can very easily be like, this is clearly wrong. But the point is, it's not just email. SMS phishing, voice phishing, those things exist, and they're scary, and they're trying to get you. And listen, maybe everybody here who's sitting on our lab call, we're telling you exactly what's going on, I'm showing you an image of something you know to be wrong, you all spotted that. I'm sure you did. But maybe you have some less technical family members, or maybe you have some less technical employees at work, or you have John and I are both security engineers. I just saw you connect with me on LinkedIn, John. And maybe we have some users that don't quite get it, and they just want to click on stuff on their phones. I've got a couple of friends, personal friends that are attorneys that would not be able to see this. But the point is, take a minute, because it's not just email anymore.
Yeah. Stephen, one of the questions that comes up often in conversations is, how did these people get my number?
Your information's on the dark web, everybody. It's been on the dark web forever. Right. Somebody you used in some fashion in some place was hacked at some point. PG&E was, AT&T has been, Yahoo, Target, LinkedIn. Having your number and being able to enter a communication with your number is not a reason to give people information. It's just not anymore.
Yeah. There isn't any obscurity with your telephone number. Right?
None.
Particularly if you've had it for any period of time,
right?
I've
had mine for 25 years.
That's not even a great qualifier, right? Like that's it's because your information's out there. That's why that's why you get this stuff.
Yep.
All right. So best thing to do when you get phishing email in the Microsoft world is just mark it as such. One of the things I really like about the newer version of Outlook is that that functionality is brought front and center. In the legacy version, you can also have it set up. You just need to configure it in your ribbon there so that you can see it. All right. Personal habits. Always use a lock screen on your smartphone. If you're an Endsight client and you get corporate email on your on your smartphone, this is already set up. But if you don't have that, this is kind of one of those. It's kind of like multi-factor authentication. You should really be doing this. You should only give out personal or sensitive data on telephone calls that you've initiated. This is this attack vector. People calling you. It's called phishing. I think we got a slide about it a little bit later, and it's becoming more and more common.
Very.
You should invest in identity theft protection. And Stephen likes to expand on this, and not necessarily because it will stop an attack on your personal identity, but because there's insurance that goes along with it that can help you reclamate an issue if one occurs. I think the software. I think it also has some cool features that just keep me and my family alerted. We use Endsight offers LifeLock as an employee benefit. That's what my family and I use, and I like being able to see when thresholds are met and things like that. The other one we talked a little bit about earlier about investing in a password manager. We talked about 1Password and Bitwarden. And Stephen, I can't remember. Were you able to? Okay, you did drop.
I was there.
It's
in the chat, my friend.
Into the chat. We don't have Endsight doesn't have skin in the game, or we don't. There's no benefit to us if you investigate either of these tools. These are just things that we think are the world has kind of evolved to a place where these are things you should have and should investigate. All right, we're getting towards the end here. We're at our Q&A section. If folks have any questions, by all means, feel free to drop them there in the chat. We'll monitor it for a second. I don't think we had, we didn't have any that folks put in as part of signing up for the for training this month. Maybe we're just doing such a good job. Nobody has any questions.
Yeah, we're awesome. We're just nobody has any questions.
Just that good. I sang everybody to sleep at the beginning. That's what happened.
Yep. Very nice.
Okay. If you do have something come up, folks, just go ahead and drop it in the chat, and we'll stop and answer the question. We're going to move on to the mechanics of a social engineering attack, because people, most folks find this pretty useful and helpful. Social engineering is attacking the human being, and Stephen talks a lot. You talk a lot about cybersecurity as people, process, and technology in that order. And the reason it's in that order is because the human beings are the weakest link, right? So the mechanism that an attacker uses when they go after people, it's best typified by the next couple of slides. So you've got this guy here, and he's going to be retiring soon, and you'll probably want to wish him well. But everybody probably has some kind of an opinion about him. I have a favorable one. And if the guy walked into the office here and said, "Hey Jay, would you like one of my Cokes?" I'd be really surprised, because he seems to hoard them. But I'd go, "Thanks, Mr. Buffett," and then I'd ask him for a stock tip, and it would be wonderful. But if by comparison, this guy walked into the office and said, "Hey man, would you like a Coke?" I would be really, really afraid and would not want that Coke. The point here is that human beings, we use context to try to figure out what's safe and what's unsafe. And we use a lot of it, and we can be misled and we can be spoofed. The other thing I think that's really important is that in either of the examples that I gave, did I give a whole bunch of thought to what was in the can of Coke? It was really more about who was delivering the Coke. And so it's these three images that really are the pillars of a social engineering attack. It is the Joker trying to make us believe he is Warren Buffett and obscuring whatever is in the can of Coke. That's really what's at play here. And so there isn't a technology on the planet that can guard against this completely. There are some tools that and Endsight has some of them layered in, but ultimately they're going after the human being. The attacker's going after the human being here. And so the only way to combat that is with sort of our first principle here. Everyone and everything online is a stranger, and we should be suspicious of strangers, cultivating that habit of suspicion every time our fingers touch a keyboard or a keypad. And it's prolific, because these three brands that we have here, again, we already talked about Amazon, right? But they're also the three most spoof brands in phishing attacks, because they can be leveraged because we have, most of us have fairly decent feelings about these guys. The number 4, by the way, is DHL, which is one of the organizations that delivers all their stuff to us. Right. So that's how social engineering works. And then there's other telltale signs. We like to lump these into a section of the training that we lovingly call things that will never happen. Wink, wink. So, Stephen, why don't you go ahead and expand on it briefly?
Yeah, let me do a couple of these, everybody. So, listen, a lot of scammers say they're Amazon. They say, hey, unless you update your account and give us your new credit card number and information and stuff. And by the way, use the link in this email. You're not gonna be able to buy stuff from us anymore. That is not gonna happen. Amazon wants your money. They just care that you have a credit card that works. They don't even really care what your address is. They'd like it if you weren't returning a bunch of stuff, but they just want your money. Everybody, you may know someone who Microsoft, wink, wink, hint, hint, has called to help with their computer. Happened to my dad twice. Microsoft does not call and offer free tech support. Heck, we can't even get an offer tech support to us when we're trying to actually call them. Like, it's not a thing. But people get these calls. Common elder abuse scam. Hey, it's your grandson, Stevie? Yeah, Stevie. I'm just in Thailand right now and I'm being arrested, Grandma, and I'm really scared. I just need some money. They say that if I don't have to hand them over $2,000 right now, I'm going to go to jail. Oh, okay, I'll wire you the money. This actually happened to my grandmother. I could not convince her I was not the scammer myself. I said, fine, just give me an hour or two. I'll prove to you it's me. Stay where you are, and I'll show up at your house. I had to drive to her place to prove I was not arrested in Thailand. The scammers were more convincing than I was. Everybody's always seen the emails about winning a Yeti cooler. Anybody ever actually get a Yeti cooler? Of course you didn't. We send fake phishing emails to our clients to get people to click on them and test to see if they're paying attention and they know what the scams are. The number one email we send, the one that gets about an 80% click rate, is, hey, we found a puppy in the parking lot. There are links in this email that have pictures of the puppy. Will you check out this puppy, see if you know who has the puppy so we can get it back to its owner? Man, that'd probably get me, I'll be honest with you. I know.
Everybody loves puppies. We
I'm a
should,
bad
what we
guy.
ought to do? Maybe we should replace the pigs flying picture with a puppy flying picture.
That'd be amazing. Everybody, and the last one, I'm gonna skip the parking rules for now, but the last one is text messages for gift cards. Listen, everybody, every single employee that starts with Endsight gets a text message saying, hey, this is Mike Shaped. I just need to go buy some gift cards and scratch off the codes and send them to me. I'm at a convention and I want to help one of our clients out.
Right. And they don't get that email from us. It's not a testing text that we send.
Yep.
It's just
And,
goes out.
yep. And everybody, the truth is, the thing these all have in common is none of these are technological. There's no hacking into your firewall and breaking into your computer here. It's just humans getting tricked, right? And none of these things have ever happened, and yet they keep working and making people money. So
Yeah.
be aware.
Yep. Always be suspicious. Please, please, please remember that. Okay, we got some examples for you. So this is the interactive section of the training. So we hope you'll participate. Please participate. It's going to be really, really awkward otherwise. All right. Here is our first example. Using the things that we've been talking about the last 48 minutes, what's jumping out at you here? Just go ahead and drop it in the chat. Come on,
I'll start off a little
Kendrick.
bit here.
Yeah.
I'll start off a little bit here, everybody. So this is for Blank Technologies LLC, but it's coming from familyfraternal.com. The address is wrong, right? Please pay this money, right? We appreciate your prompt attention. Come on, that's ridiculous. Zoom info onboarding. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of things where here's an invoice. Please click on the invoice, and then just pay us. That's a multi-channel verification thing. All right, well then just call the guy, whoever this pretends to be. I'll pick up the phone. I'll call him.
Yeah. All righty, let's do this one. What's this one? Jumping out at you, folks.
Anybody still awake back there?
We'll give you a hint. Wink, wink.
Yep.
No, not
HTTPS
today. Huh?
address. That's interesting. That's good. That's so Cara, that's true. Yeah, we.so. Good
Yeah.
call. Very good.
Thank
Different
you.
link.
Yes.
Absolutely. Thank you, Kendrick. Appreciate that. And the other one, guys, you think AAA is really emailing people and giving away free car kits? Like, come on, that's not a thing. That's not gonna happen,
Yeah.
right? It's way too good to be true. It's like getting a credit card or a gift card from like Southwest Airlines. No way. It's not a thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Kendrick Carr, thanks so much for participating. We appreciate you dearly. All right, last one. What's this one?
So everyone, Mike Chaput is the CEO of our organization.
I'll give you a hint.
Kara Kendrick, you still with us? I'll tell you what, Mike Chaput definitely has an Endsight.net email. 100%, I know it for sure.
Yep.
Um, and it's the message sent out from outside the company with a display name matching the organization, and they want to update the details for the next payroll. Everybody, we had this happen to one of our clients this year. Somebody lost a paycheck because accounting just went, okay, we'll change the paycheck place. They didn't even bother to verify. That's awful.
Yeah. All righty. Well, maybe everybody's over it for the time being. We'll spare you. If you change your mind and want to do some practicing with phish testing, Aaron Krebs on our team, he actually built a tool called our phish testing quiz. There's 10 examples that you can go through. It's free, and you can get to it by following the link or by hitting the QR code. I'd encourage you to go check it out. Maybe share it with your team and just see how folks do on it. Also, phish testing is highly effective against preventing cyber attacks. You want to expand on that just a little bit, Stephen?
Yeah, everybody. So one of the things we do is we send fake phishing emails out. It's to clients that subscribe to the service, which we highly, highly encourage, because we want you to know there are bad guys. They are attempting to get your address and information, and they are attempting to trick you. And if we can send something that's suspicious but not dangerous, we can say, hey, we're checking to make sure you're doing okay. Right? That's a big deal. So listen, hopefully you're getting them. If you're not, maybe get a hold of your technical account manager over at Endsight over here, because these are things that are really cool and really useful. It's one of the best things for a healthy dose of suspicion, which we want everyone to have.
Yeah. Thanks, Stephen. All
Hmm.
right. So we're at our recap section. So again, folks, multi-factor authentication everywhere you can put it. It it guards you against a huge percentage of the attacks out there. And then if you haven't heard it enough times from me, cultivate a habit of suspicious when you're out when you're using your technology. Those two things by themselves will make you dramatically safer compared to everybody else that isn't applying those two principles. We've got some free stuff for you. We have a weekly newsletter called 365 Tip of the Week. In it, there's actually two tips. One of them is a cybersecurity tip, and one of them is a productivity tip on the Microsoft 365 productivity suite. And if you'd like to sign up for that, you can hit the scan code and get that. Also, Stephen, he produces about every 2 weeks, right, Stephen?
Roughly.
What we call cybersecurity shorts. This is as the name implies, it is a short exposition on a topic like layered security or reputational damage, and you can get there by going to /security-shorts. You can also get there from our homepage. If you just go to services, cybersecurity services, security shorts, it will take you right over there. And again, we put one out about every 2 weeks. If you are one of the folks responsible for managing risk in the organization, if a cyber attack would land on your desk as a big heaping dumpster fire, you're not going to want to miss cybersecurity office hours. If you've ever been and allowed Stephen to kind of share his perspective with you, you'll agree. This is one of these places where Stephen gets to really kind of dig into what he's been seeing the last 90 days. Stephen, I can't remember all of the topics that you're going to be going through, but there's a big old software company you're going to be talking. Actually, a couple of software companies you're going to be talking
Yeah,
about.
let's talk Oracle and Microsoft. That's what's coming up in the 22nd, everybody.
Yeah. So that is another one of the things that we do. You don't have to be an Endsight client to attend, and it is free. A lot of folks just don't have access to somebody with Steven's skill, but he leaves half of the thing open for Q&A. So bring your questions, any questions, and
Sure.
we'll be
That's
happy
what I'm here
to
for.
work with you.
Yeah.
We also do every month or so we're doing different content. Our AI Copilot webinar with Michelle Brzezinski is going to be on June 26th. This one is really good at diving into how companies are using AI, specifically Copilot, but more and more we're seeing other software types that are getting highlighted: ChatGPT, Claude. The lists just seem to be getting longer and longer. With that, folks, we are done, and we thank you.
Nice.
A little bit early, and we thank you for making time for us. We'll stick around for just for a little bit as folks file out if you want to. If you've got questions, by all means, feel free to drop them into the chat. You're very welcome, Cara. Thank you for making time.
Appreciate that.
We appreciate you guys carving out the time to do it. Stephen, we forgot to mention that we've been fairly successful.
Thanks, Mira.
As a group guarding against ransomware.
Yeah,
and
0 ransomware attacks in the biggest
work that
year.
You and your team do, but a large part of it is also because we've got a pretty well-educated user community. And so we thank you for that, everybody.
Absolutely. All right, y'all. I don't see any more questions. So thank you, Mira. Thank you, Cara. Appreciate that. And Kendrick already left, but thanks for him. And I'll see y'all later. Have a good rest of your day. Thank you very much.
Stephen, thanks for making time, buddy. I'll talk to you later.
Always,
always a pleasure, my friend.
All right.
Did you like the song? Hey, before you go, did you like the song?
Yeah, I did. Super did.
Were you surprised? I hope you were.
It was awesome. Loved it. Very surprising.
All right. I'll see you later, buddy. Be safe.
Bye, buddy. Thanks. You too.
Oh, Brandon. Thanks for joining, buddy. I appreciate it. I'm going to go ahead and jump out here. Thanks again, everybody, for joining, and have a very safe month ahead. See you next month. Bye now.